Hello to the web and therefore the deep web. Welcome to our sister podcast, the BLOCKCED-DOWN BLOCKCHAIN Podcast, charting the rise of blockchain technology in all aspects of our lives and how it does impact it from the perspective of the electronic influencers. BDB1 is the sister podcast of StarCast, the electronic influencer podcast, another ADMP production and digital inception. Ladies and gentlemen, we're building a pure signal to end the infodemic here. No fake news, no internet of beef will be allowed. My name is Hermann Djoumessi, founder of the ADMP Virtual Incubator, and my co-host is Dr. Wang Kim of the ESC Paris Business School, the one and still the best blockchain master on the French hexagon. You do have something to say to that, Doctor, please?
I'm just very happy to be here and be a part of this and to introduce Massimo Buonomo.
Fantastic. All right. So nice segue into today's topic, which is totally COVID-19 free, although we would look at solution that could be valid post-COVID. All right. So listen, like, and share the BLOCKCED-DOWN Blockchain Podcast, the number one bilingual podcast somewhere in the internet, and do not hesitate to comment and drop us a few lines whenever possible on Spreaker, YouTube, DEEZER, Spotify, Podcast Addicts, PODCHASER, and all the good platforms you do enjoy. We actually have an incredible guest today that we will introduce in a few minutes. His name, Massimo Buonomo, the United Nations global expert in blockchain, Fintech and Regtech. He is, of course, spearheading the movement to explore potential application of the blockchain technology to the current pandemic. All right? Which is why we want to raise those issues today with our guest, Massimo Buonomo. Hello, Massimo, and welcome to BDB1.
Hi, it's a pleasure for me to be here with you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much again. Can you please tell us your superhero origin story and, in simple steps, your academic background for a start, please?
Well, my academic background is a bit, it's quite a bit. I graduated in Siena in Italy, and then I had postgraduate studies in Belgium and United States. And then I became, I worked for about 25 years in financial markets. And then I became a university professor in Rio de Janeiro, then in Turin in Italy, and then in Wuhan in China. And then,
okay.
Yeah, exactly, the city of the pandemics, actually. And,
happy coincidence.
Yeah, that's a coincidence. I have got lots of friends over there, by the way.
So great. So you were gifted with a triple treat of superpowers with, I would say, blockchain, fintech, and Regtech. Can you define any of those three superpowers, or all three, please?
Yeah, sure. I am also a United Nations global expert in blockchain, fintech, regtech. I look at every single blockchain application, no matter what the application is and its use is for. For instance, I looked at applications in finance, in smart contracts, in luxury business, SDGs. And now I'm looking at applications to address challenges of COVID-19. That is an issue that I've been following quite closely because it's something that is very actual now, and everybody's looking at that to try and find a solution.
Okay, so that's really interesting. And how would you say, why should we care about blockchain or fintech or regtech whenever we talked about those issues? Why blockchain? I mean, can you define it for us? What is it exactly for you?
Of course, if we refer to COVID-19, I always start saying that the solution is the people's behavior, first of all. blockchain is a technology. So it's not going to make any good if people's behavior doesn't change. Having said that, blockchain is the best technology around to help us overcome the problems caused by COVID-19. More than
as of today, blockchain is still the best. Okay.
Yeah. More than any other technology.
Yes. Right. Okay. That's interesting. Okay. So blockchain will be the best technology so far in order to bring about some peace of mind to the world in terms of this pandemic and the post-pandemic world. Okay, we get it. But how would you actually really apply it to the actual problem? How does it? Well, I mean, why is it important? Why should we care about it?
Sure.
I'm trying to,
in order to understand the blockchain applications to COVID-19 pandemic, we have first of all to make a little bit of an introduction about what the background on COVID-19 pandemic is. If we look at the government's behavior during the COVID-19 pandemic, there are some features that are always the same. First of all, we've seen it in China, in Italy, in France, everywhere. Governments, officers, and general population at the beginning did not immediately sound the alarm. So governments were sometimes reluctant to share information with the international health community about the epidemics. Official statistics on those infected and diseased are unreliable. The deaths at the nursing homes are not taken into consideration. And then because of the lockdown, we had several reduction of annual real GDP growth, total sales of goods and services, and industrial production for the countries affected by the epidemic. So all these problems should have been addressed taking into consideration the main variables related to COVID-19, which are, first of all, the identity, the moves, and the number of asymptomatic cases, the self-isolation or mandated quarantine, the testing for COVID-19, and the vaccine. And then if we go back to the blockchain applications that have been used, the blockchain solutions are most of all for COVID-19 outbreak aiming at four main categories. One, tracking medical material supply chain and donation tracking. Two, managing medical data. Three, contact tracing, i.e. the ability to find people who've been in close proximity to an infected individual. And then four, insurance claims processing. Now, which blockchain applications have been used to solve these problems? First of all, I always start with an application which is a modern application in ecosystem. It's called Medlock. It's a joint collaboration between Avantas Technology and Maxoro. And this is a monitoring, control, and communication ecosystem, which means that it has different blockchain applications to apply to all three phases of pandemics. The first phase is the response phase, when the pandemic explodes. Then the application is to have the tracking of supply chain for medical drugs, food, and other critical supplies. Also coordinating the welfare activities and tracking donations and managing medical data. This is just in the response phase. Then there is a recovery phase when there is the issuing of e-certificate to citizens about their COVID-19 status if they request it. Because that way medical professionals can attest to a user that they have been tested and vaccinated or seen recovery. And then also collecting data to enforce smart lockdown strategies. And then the third phase is preparation for the next wave. This is what everybody is concerned now. And then there should be some specific blockchain applications for that, for helping law enforcement and border control authorities, advising media and citizens with authentic information, and also improving insurance claim processing. So this is an ecosystem, a huge application. Then there are some blockchain applications that are specific for some specific aims. For instance, there is an application for supply chain tracking that is being created by Alipay, the Chinese company. They launched a blockchain-based platform that allows users to track demand and supply chains and logistics of medical supplies. Yes. Because medical supplies is essential. I always say that blockchain is organization. What we've seen during pandemics is a complete disorganized approach by governments. And if they had used blockchain applications, all the hectic behavior they had wouldn't have taken place, and probably lots of deaths wouldn't have happened as well. So that's why supply chain tracking is so important. In the case of this Alipay application, for instance, the open blockchain network enables users to track the allocation of resources and ensure that the donations reach where it's needed, because this is a very important point. We don't know when we donate where the money is going or where the medical supply is going, how it's spent. And with blockchain, you know who is giving, how is giving, and when it's going, and how much is going. Everything is defined. So the immutable ecosystem records also mishandling of supplies. That has been a huge issue in China, for instance. I'll give you an example. In China, people's confidence in some state-backed charity organizations was severely damaged in the past. There were videos of donated supplies being taken by non-medical personnel in China. There was also a question of reputation from the China's Red Cross. Previous scandals in the management of donations after the Sichuan earthquake in 2008 in China. And also during these pandemics, the Red Cross Society of Hubei they themselves stated they were deeply distressed, blamed themselves, and felt guilt about problems with the distribution of donated materials. Donation tracking is essential. And there were another blockchain application comes in. For instance, there is a company called Hyperchain that is a hands-on based blockchain startup that together with the China Xiong group developed a donation tracking platform called Shenzong. This donation tracking platform is beautiful because it tracks what kind of donations are given, from money to masks to medical materials, how they have been matched to areas of needs, and when they have been delivered. So you know how much, how, and when is being delivered. So donors can see where funds are most urgently needed and therefore track their donations until they are provided. And there's even a verification that their donations have been received. So Shenzong guarantees the authenticity of donation information by putting it on the blockchain. All information is on the blockchain, which then cannot be changed or deleted. Donation recipients included the People's Hospital in Wuhan and some other hospitals in the Hubei province, all of which are treating people infected with the coronavirus. So you can see the practical utility of the blockchain applications. But even in the northwest China's Shanxi province, in the city of Xi'an, there is a system for online consultation and screening, which was launched on February the 1st. With this blockchain system,
Okay.
Securely, you have a management of health records, ensuring what is essential in the blockchain: interoperability. What does that mean? That means that the different systems interchange information and work together without compromising security and patient privacy. So you got a huge amount of information being managed. And then going, for instance, back to supply chain in the US, we've seen IBM launching IBM Rapid Supplier Connect Network.
Okay.
And that is designed to provide support for supplier identity using blockchain technology.
Right.
So IBM Network helps enable buyers in the United States and Canada, healthcare and government sectors, including hospitals, state procurement divisions, medical device makers, and local governments to find supplies, because this is a huge issue. There was lack of ventilators, lack of masks, lack of gloves. All these things during the pandemic was causing deaths of doctors, of medical people. So, of course, if you have a supply chain tracking, you know whom to ask, how to ask, and how much you spend. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Of course, these applications weren't used, and that's why there were so many deaths. For instance, in the United States, we have also another blockchain application, which is called North Carolina-based Remedy. It's a healthcare blockchain application company, which is implementing a program to improve supply chain monitoring and quality control while providing data for the targeted inventory. And this application was used in the past when they created a similar application when Remedy created a blockchain-based program with the country of Mongolia, the World Bank, and Honor Foundation to eradicate hepatitis C, to track the movement of medications from manufacturers all the way to patients. So you know that who's giving and who's receiving. And this is beautiful. Now, a huge issue right now with the blockchain application is the issue of the day is contact tracing.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about that right now.
That's very controversial, isn't it? Contact tracing.
Exactly. We're going to go into details because everybody's talking. It seems that the only blockchain application is contact tracing. And that's why I put it in the end, just to have some time to explain in details what the matter, what the problems are, and what the solutions are.
Excellent. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, we have to start from the fact that there could be two different kinds of applications. Centralized blockchain applications and decentralized applications. The centralized applications are the ones where there is a central authority who actually manages the data. Decentralized when the data go in the cloud and there is no a central authority that manages the data. Now, there has been a lot of controversy about the use of these contact tracing applications because of the matter of privacy. I'm going to explain this issue quite in details. Let's look at, for instance, at Singapore. Singapore has had a successful use of contact tracing application called Trace Together. That worked beautifully. And Singapore, the number of the infected people in Singapore dropped dramatically until, I think, the beginning of April, when the government felt so much in control, they started lifting the lockdown measures. But then what happened was incredible because the numbers of infected people exploded. from, I think, 1,000 to 10,000. Why? Because this is exactly what I meant at the beginning when I said technology doesn't help. The first thing is always people's behavior. The people's behavior, the people's behavior was, once the lifting of the lockdown measures took place, was to get in touch so close that the virus spread around so much that the people, that the government got so worried that they are already using back the lockdown measures. This happened in Singapore. So how did this application work? Basically, it works by using Bluetooth to detect all the other users an individual is in close proximity to. Let's say that I am not infected and you are infected. I get close to you. Our mobile phones, the Bluetooth, communicate with each other.
Of course.
And they tell the central government, the Ministry of Health, look, Massimo, and you got in touch. So Massimo might be infected. So the Ministry of Health calls me and tells me, look, you got in touch with an infected person. You got to do the testing. So the day after, they fix a date for me to do the testing, and I'm checked. If I got the virus, they tell me, and they put me in quarantine. If I don't, they say, be careful, and still you have to, you are closely followed. So this approach is being very effective, but there is an issue of privacy because I'm basically, the government knows not only that I'm a potential infected person, but also that I got close to you. And if I go to church or if I meet some political people, they know whatever I do. And this is a sort of invasion of privacy. This is a bit worrying to some extent. Of course, this solution is being used and it's been very effective, but has serious privacy concerns.
Yes.
Now we come to Europe, where the privacy environment is completely different. Here we have the EU GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, which offers necessary protection against mass data collection. What does that mean? That means that the rule in Europe is the lawfulness of processing, the rule of consent.
Consent, exactly.
What does that mean? That means that the data subject must give consent to the processing of his or her personal data for one or more specific purposes. So if I don't give my consent, even if my mobile gives the message to the cloud, you can't do anything. In fact, what happens is that let's go back to our first example. I and you get in touch. Now, my mobile and your mobile sends a message to the cloud, not to a government, to the cloud. And in the cloud, the more a hash is generated, and two hashes talk to each other and say that I got in touch with an infected person. So I get a hash back to my mobile from the cloud saying, you got in touch with an infected person. What do you want to do? Then I decide whether I want to go. Nobody's going to know it, and not the infected person. No one else is going to know it. So this
that would be an automated message.
Exactly. But this is the solution being created by Apple and Google. This is the solution in the cloud, the totally decentralized solution, which, of course, goes well with the European GDPR. But what have we got in Europe? In Europe, we got a hybrid solution. The Pan-European Privacy Preserving Proximity Tracing, PPT, which is a consortium based in Switzerland, wants to make a GDPR-compliant opt-in location detecting app.
Right.
To contact tracing for those who have encountered coronavirus carriers. Now, this solution is being endorsed by German Chancellor Angela Merkel. In Italy, Bending Spoon, which is part of this consortium, created Immuni, an app endorsed by the Italian government. So you can see that this Swiss consortium is spreading the virus of the app all around Europe, in fact.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But,
virus and human virus.
Yes, a different virus.
Yeah.
But this is a hybrid solution because it's, to some extent, is decentralized, but there is some sort of centralized authority. So now it's been endorsed, but governments are some governments are skeptical, some wants to accept it, some want to go much more in detail. So who's going to get the information? They are saying until the end of the year, the information is in the cloud, then it's eliminated. But somebody is saying, but who's going to have access to the information in the cloud? Some might, some not, government officers. So there's a lot of confusion nowadays on this. And that's why there is a lot of discussion in France as well. In UK, they are trying to use another solution. For instance, is testing NHS, the health authority in the UK. But UK, for instance, remains subject to European GDPR rules until the end of the year, when the transition period ends following its Brexit decision. So, in fact, they have a foot out of the EU rules. You can see that what kind of mess these GDPR rules are creating. In a positive mess, in a sense that a lot of discussions are generated by these contact tracing applications.
Definitely.
And according to, is it even possible to apply the blockchain to contact tracing? Because the GDPR rules state that you have an individual has the right to erase their information. And and that's counteractive to the blockchain, where once it's written, your information is always on the blockchain.
Yeah, that's another problem as well. But of course, if the whole system is the main issue is if it's decentralized, the hashes are on the blockchain, but you cannot really see who is behind that hash. So there is not a privacy concern, even if it's forever on the blockchain. The main issue is if it's a centralized or a decentralized solution.
Yes.
So this is what I would stress. And then there are some interesting solutions for employers. For instance, in Europe, the management of personal data is only exclusivity for governments, in a sense that if there are GDPR rules respected, only governments can touch this data. While in the United States, this is not the case, because there are already some employer-focused contact tracing apps. And this is there is a privacy issue here, because private companies couldn't say you got a virus. They couldn't know. All they can do is to make a scan in the entrance of the office and say, you have some fever, go back and do the testing, for instance. But by the way, they have to pay me the testing. But they cannot have a blockchain application in Europe. While in United States, some employer-focused contact tracing apps are already being used. And the use of these apps could facilitate employees' return to work. However, employee privacy concerns must be considered also to avoid possible lawsuits, which is a huge issue in the United States. So the basic elements for employers to choose a contact tracing app is, first of all, to understand how the product works. And that's not easy. Yeah. Then to make sure employees understand the product because they have to give the consent. Yeah. But also to use internal policies for the use of the app. And also to be compliant with national and privacy rules. Yes. So this is not something that you say from one day to another. You hire a blockchain company, you put the check in the testing in your company, and that's it. You have to respect and follow the rules, and these are very strict rules. Another blockchain application, which is quite interesting, and it took place in China again. It's a blockchain application, insurance claims processing. What is insurance claims processing? When I'm sure that everybody of us, each of us has got some painful experience with insurance claims. Whenever you have a claim, especially a health claim, when you're traveling and people are saying, you go back and you want you spent a lot of money and you want the claim to be processed as soon as possible, and then the claim goes back and forth to you from the insurance company say that's not correct and this is not covered, and that could give you some serious problems and huge financial losses. Now, blockchain technology, generally speaking, also mitigates the risk of infection from face-to-face contact, as the platform is able to process transactions without human involvement, of course. Now, what happened in China is that mutual aid insurance platforms surged in China, and they exploded. Now, there is first of all, we're going to talk about the bad side and then the good side. The bad side is that they are P2P platforms, largely unregulated, as they are not licensed by the China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission.
Is that what they call shadow banking?
Yeah, it's a sort of shadow banking. And so they do not need to follow the tough capital requirements or other risk management rules like traditional insurers. So, in fact, you have not a protection by the government if things go wrong.
All right.
If things go wrong. But let's see the good side. The good side is, for instance, this Chinese company called Xianghubao, which means mutual protection in Chinese. Now, this is a Chinese blockchain-based collective claim sharing platform. It is Ant Financial's online mutual aid platform. This Xianghubao provides its participants with a basic health plan, which complements other premium health insurance offerings. But the beauty of this is that it requires no upfront payment, no admission fees, and processes coronavirus claims. And it's dead cheap. I think it's about $10 per month. Now, I'll give you an example. They went from 0 to, I think, 100 million subscribers in a month.
Oh, right. Better than Zoom.
Yeah. But the thing is that they are able, if, we hope not, but if somebody gets a coronavirus, he can have a treatment which in China costs about between $5,000 and $10,000, just paying $10 per month. So it's worth, even if there is this issue of shadow banking, if the money involved is so small, I would do it. Wouldn't you? I don't know. Because the financial loss would be very small.
Right.
And therefore, you would be covered and would have the treatment from a top hospital. When a participant makes a claim, supporting evidence must be submitted via the Alipay app, and then it goes through a review and approval process, and then it's all processed right away. You get a yes or no to your application.
Right.
So you can see there's a lot of things going on.
And that's on the blockchain as well?
Yes.
Okay, good. Right, that's quite impressive. Oh, okay. So it's okay. The situation is quite complex here because as we can see, it's really about putting together. I mean, the mobile industry, artificial intelligence, blockchain, big data, of course, regtech, and biometrics, all of it together.
Yeah, it depends on the application that you're using. Some applications use some specific tools, some others use many of them. Of course, the know-how and the application, the way it's used, we've seen Medlock, who has an ecosystem, some others that are focused on one single aspect. The universe is quite big. But of course, what application would we use? Personally, I will use an ecosystem, but the governments have to make sure that, of course, the application work properly for and are GDPR compliant, or they address specific aspects. Supply chain tracking might be a solution. So we've got a lot going on, and you have to be a good advisor, like myself, maybe, who can tell you which one is the best for you.
Massimo, can you explain a little bit about Medlock? Because I think it's one of the most promising solutions out there, right?
Yeah, Medlock, as I said at the beginning, is a joint collaboration between Dubai-based Avantas Technology Accelerator and Maxenru, which is an Asian blockchain company, top one, and is a monitoring, control, and communication ecosystem. So they have different applications for each specific phase of the pandemic: the response phase, the recovery phase, the preparation phase, and also Medlock provides COVID-19 information to government entities within the respect of privacy rules. So what you have is trackable exchange of data between players for small supply chain operations. Donors can see more clearly where their funds are going.
Yeah.
So a good thing, of course, is to minimize administrative costs through automation, as we were saying, using AI applications. They provide also more accountability and public trust. AI-based analytics, smart contracts facilitate coordination mechanisms for welfare activities linked to recovery phase, because during the recovery phase, you see lots of governments are doing, we're going to spend money for this, for that, and for that. Something that is not coordinated. With Medlock, you can coordinate that activity as well with AI. So, I mean, there are so many applications that it's such a beautiful thing that I think many governments will use it.
Wow, this is really exciting. But I mean, but at the same time, I'm scared because when I'm listening to you, I'm listening to everything that I haven't seen so far. So I'm like, oh, really? Are they really going to be able to pull this one off? I don't know about that. I'm not so sure. And one thing I've also picked on as in regard to what you said. You said that if you had to start today, you would start with an ecosystem. So that means you would actually probably create a token for your project. Did I get it right? Or
yeah, I mean, the ecosystem, the concept of ecosystem is to have one shop for all your problems, all your challenges. So you go, instead of going to someone for one application, someone else for another application, and maybe there is no interoperability, as we were talking before, you have a one-side shop where you buy everything. And each side, each aspect is being addressed. So in generally, I would use ecosystems for any single problem to be addressed. For instance, in the case of COVID-19, Medlock. For other problems, I would use always ecosystem because whenever there is a problem, you can talk just to one rather than several organizations which provide you with service, right? Mm-hmm. So, and also an essential thing is interoperability, because if you got, of course, you have your own software, your own things, and you want to make sure that what you got talks to the blockchain in a way that is effective and efficient. So interoperability is essential for the blockchain that you're using to be used in a proper way. That's why whenever I talk to clients, I say, make sure that there is interoperability with your operating systems and choose an ecosystem rather than one single blockchain application.
Right. Because it's really interesting what you say, because talking about bridging the blockchain gaps. I mean, 2 weeks ago, seems like a century ago now, I think Vitalik Buterin, the founder of the Ethereum Foundation, tweeted that it was time to start bridging the blockchain's gap. And this is a topic that has been written about quite extensively. I mean, last year, Andreas Antonopoulos, the writer of the Internet of Money for Your Self-Education, he articulated that the winner takes all attitude within the blockchain ecosystem was out, and that inter-blockchain communication was now in. And he said that at the BlockStack Summit in San Francisco. And so we actually really, really need to start looking for a project that can bridge different blockchain. And I mean, definitely the first thing that comes to mind is, if you have a proof of work blockchain and you have a proof of stake blockchain, and you have with all the different protocols that are out there, how do you bridge them all together? So, and there was a tweet, and then somebody replied to Vitalik Buterin, and it was I don't know if you've heard about them, it's Hybrix. It's a company, and they're trying to bridge Ethereum and Bitcoin. And I mean, are there any solutions that could help bridge those different and put all these different blockchains together? Do you know any of them?
I mean, when we talk about cryptocurrency, it's a different matter, to be honest.
All right, okay. For you, it's cryptocurrency. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
No. Also, for the blockchain and the information on the blockchain, there are many projects that are in place right now that are like Cosmos, which deal with interoperability of blockchains.
Yeah, sure.
But we are still far away from pure interoperability. Where it's quite fluid. Right now, there's still a lot of friction and a lot of work that needs to be done. And this is a big domain. And I would say one of the big pillars of development that needs to be done on the infrastructure side.
Exactly. I mean, interoperability is the biggest challenge for blockchain right now, I would say. And that's where everybody's working on. And you have to see, that's why I say to my clients, look, check interoperability first if you want to make sure that your blockchain is going to work.
All right. Okay. So that's one thing. The second thing that we can look at to solve those problems as well with, emerging new technologies and emerging protocols and interoperability issues. The second thing we could look at is, what about open source? Are you kind of advocating and pushing for open source, or are you against it? I mean, what's your position on that, please?
No, generally speaking, I'm always in favor of open source because that's a democratic way of using blockchain. But you have to make sure that the players adopt it correctly and all together, because otherwise it can be an effective way of using open source. So even then, it must be done in an organized way. So
yeah. Can you please repeat what you just said, because I think we had a drop in sound, please. Just
yeah. I mean, in general, in general, I'm always in favor of open source because it's a sort of way of democratizing the use of blockchain. But then again, you have to see also the way open source is used, the players that are adopting it, because otherwise it could be a waste of a blockchain application. So the more they are used, the better. And that is not an easy task to be done. And most of the time, so that's why, that's because the open source is not so effective. But in general, I'm in favor of open source.
Right. Okay. All right. So I have a few personalities that I'd like to introduce you to, and we would like to know your opinion or non-opinion on them. Which one do you tend to prefer between Andreas Antonopoulos or Satoshi Nakamoto?
Well, this is a tough question also because nobody really knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is.
Right.
Yeah, I think in general, I would say one thing. Blockchain doesn't have a father or a mother. Blockchain is a technology.
Yes.
And its usefulness is based on the adoption by many players. Of course, there have been so many discussions. For instance, look at the cryptocurrencies. And this is a huge issue. Cryptos were considered to be the money of the criminals, but now we have United Nations that is adopting it. For instance, a United Nations agency called UNICEF, beginning in October 2019, is adopting a cryptocurrency fund. Created a cryptocurrency fund that collects donation in cryptocurrencies. It gives them in the same cryptocurrency. So there is no exchange in fiat currency. It gives them, donates them to blockchain applications in less developed countries. So the amount of money is not big, but it's about $100,000 application. But then again, you have an opportunity there, because if there is a sort of endorsement by the United Nations agency of cryptocurrency, that means that the cryptocurrencies can be perceived to be safe more, and therefore maybe that will spur a wider acceptance by the public. That's the way we go back to what we were saying. The adoption is essential for the success of a blockchain application, because if you have a beautiful application, it's not adopted by anybody, it's useless.
Yeah, Massimo, I have a question that's a little bit technical. I see that the World Food Program has used successfully the blockchain for distributing funds in Syria. And also the fact that the UNICEF has many programs that are related to the blockchain. The Red Cross, I read that in Africa they're using the blockchain. Now, in terms of the actual transfer of money, are they using Bitcoin to transfer? Are they what cryptocurrency are they using for the transactions? Do you know?
Well, what happens is the following. In the case of UNICEF, they receive donation by organizations in Bitcoin. They have received a large donation in Ethereum from the Ethereum Association. Therefore, that's really cryptocurrency. and they are using, they are giving also cryptocurrency. While in the case of Syria, they have aid sent through the Ethereum blockchain application to Syria. So that is not crypto. But more than technicalities, the message is that if such a huge and reliable organization like United Nations adopts cryptocurrencies, everybody can do it.
Yeah, and there is, as you know, that China has launched their testing of the crypto yuan. I'm going to say crypto yuan for simplicity's sake, and that might be the harbinger for other central banks to launch their cryptocurrency, their denomination, central bank currency, and so right now, when that happens, I think the logic is that stable coins, which kind of will kind of disappear, and these nationalized or central bank cryptocurrencies will take its place. Do you agree, or do you still think that these stable coins that are used for these transactions and these services will still have a place?
Well, I would say something in the middle. I think that stablecoins will stay, but definitely the cryptocurrencies adopted by central banks will be crucial and will be dominating the future of cryptocurrencies. The example of China is very good one, very good one, because here you have the Chinese central bank digital currency being introduced right now, where the central bank does the distribution to consumer-facing firms. These firms then issue it to the public. Then these firms are the usual tech giants, payment apps like Alipay, WeChat, along with leading banks. And they do not require a linked bank account. And this is a sort of a horse race, they call it, in which the leader will win the entire market. And then there were, in China, there were strong concerns about Libra, and that's why they push very much to introduce the digital one. Now the point is, why did they do that? Because they want to maintain control of money supply.
Of course.
That's crucial. For example, just to get out of China for a sec and going to Sweden, Sweden has got is pushing for the introduction of e-krona. Now, did you know that in Sweden only 13% is paid in cash? 87% of the transactions are made in digital payments. Now, so nearly all small business have switched to cashless payments. Now, the concern is that the digital payments, the digital players are private players. So to some extent, the central bank is losing control of money supply because the digital payments are entirely in the hands of private players. That's why they are pushing to introduce their own digital currency. And this is the same reason for China and for all the other governments. Although China has got some other concerns, and the digital one criticism are basically this is a centralized cryptocurrency. Again, you see, we talked about COVID, we're talking about digital currency. There is always this issue of centralized vis-a-vis decentralized. Here is a centralized cryptocurrency vis-a-vis, for instance, a decentralized like a Bitcoin. Centralized cryptocurrency is intended to give China more control over its financial system. Different cryptocurrency from Libra, which will be used in different countries with a different impact. But above all, it's a way of tracking money flows. Every time money changes hands, the central bank will know it. So there is a balance, what they call it controllable anonymity. That's funny. Because if it's anonymous, it's not controllable.
That's great.
Is it really? But is it really anonymous? That is what I'm doubting, because the advantage of a currency, of having a central bank issued currency, is to have that transparency and the control over its
but
currency.
then again, this is the Chinese translation in English of the words that they use. So that's what they say: controllable anonymity. But also there are anti-money laundering concerns, counter-terrorism financing, and tax issues, online gambling, any electronic criminal activities to be tracked. So you see, there are so many aspects to be seen that the solution, centralized vis-a-vis decentralized, is always on one side or another. Of course, if it's centralized, everything is in the control of the government, and you control the bad guys, but also the good guys. If it's decentralized, it's in the hands of the cloud, but the good and the bad guys play. So it's a political decision.
Yes. So, if you look at, I'm looking at the ADMP awards.biz, and I'm looking at the price of Ripple. It's up by 0.25%, Litecoin 1.04%, Ethereum 1.57%, and of course Bitcoin is up by 5.88%. Bitcoin has been through its halving now, I guess, and it's going up, so by slightly up. It's nothing massive. If you look at the Google Trends and you look at the word Bitcoin just on Google Trend, you just do a basic search, and you see that number 1 country is Nigeria. The number 3 country is South Africa, and the number 5 country is Ghana. So definitely, those crypto ideas are really, creeping in Africa. That's the case there. And do you have any program that you're launching over there, or do you what are you doing specifically for Africa?
I would say one thing, because keeping track of cryptocurrencies is not easy, and also volumes are very big. Sometimes what you tend to find is that some less developed countries, like for instance Venezuela, during the crisis, there were huge volumes in Bitcoins. You would tend to think, why Venezuela, such a poor country, has that? Because most of the times when there are crises in less developed countries, people buy Bitcoins to get the money out of the country. So that's an explanation why, for instance, even the price of Bitcoin went up recently, because there are a lot of Chinese investors that are betting on the U.S. government decision of increasing its debt. You know that recently the U.S. government has decided to face the pandemic with the issuance of borrowing of $3 trillion in this quarter. So then, of course, the Chinese investors have a great appetite for the U.S. debt, and they buy Bitcoin, and they use the Bitcoin to buy the U.S. debt. So if you see some African governments, African countries investing in cryptocurrencies, this is also related to the fact that most of the times some wealthy people over there want to put the money in a safe haven, let's say. So they buy Bitcoins and then they purchase U.S. debt or U.S. equities as they are doing, and there is an appreciation of the U.S. dollar related to that.
Flight for safety.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right, that's quite interesting. Although if you look at just Nigeria, it's 2 billion naira. They've just crossed the 2 billion naira mark, so which is roughly what, 2 million pounds. So that it's not a huge amount of money. Huge for Africa, but not a lot for the rest of the world.
Exactly. That's nothing for Bitcoin volumes or cryptocurrency volumes. That's why they are spotted. There is stock of them.
All right. So going back to your solution. So your solution will be to, in terms of how would you deploy the blockchain technology for the current crisis? It would start with creating an ecosystem, right? And you would have to decide you would have to have a dialogue with the people in terms of whether it's going to be a decentralized system or whether it's going to be a centralized system. So how do we? So basically, we can see that we're going to have to talk to a more educated citizen. And how do we achieve that? How do we do that? I mean, did you have any idea?
There are some people, very few people around that are, let's say, international advisors like myself that have got 30 years of work experience. And that's, I do online and sometimes even free online conferences for people to learn about these issues, because of course I've been a university professor, so I like to teach not only to students but to people. And the tough thing is to make difficult things easy for the people, and that's the crucial issue. And I give free webinars for that. And most of the times you have to have people that understand what they're talking about, and that's not easy to find.
Yeah.
There are lots of people that say crap in the market, to be honest.
Right. You want to say something, Doctor? Oh, no, okay.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay. So that's good to know that. So we have to educate people, and we have to really find a way to get the message to them. And so what you're saying is what do you have? I mean, I guess basically the question was whether you had I don't know, when I'm thinking about how do you spread the word about those issues, I'm looking at a website, at movies, at a Netflix, something. I need something attractive.
No, I would say you have to understand there are no specific books. Remember that when we talk about blockchain, in the market, we say that 3 months is like a year.
Yeah.
So 12 months is 4 years. The blockchain applications from the end of last year are already old now. There were only 4 months and a half.
Right.
So what I'm telling you is that it's you have to educate, try to read from reliable sources. There are some sources that are very reliable in the market, but most of the times from serious institutions, or you have to follow some specific courses, like one's course is the best in France.
Right? The best in France, of course.
Yeah, one of the best in Europe, actually. Then,
by definition.
But then again, you have to have reliable people as well, because most of the people tend to sell their products rather than selling the basic concept. But in fact, you have to look at all the time the good side and the bad side of each application. That is the best approach. And you have to learn yourself and make an effort, because this is a huge and very new industry.
And I wanted to ask about that, Massimo. Do you think that this crisis has created more opportunities for the acceleration in the adoption of the blockchain, especially for those people who are young and still curious to see whether or not this is an interesting sector for them, an opportunistic sector?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I got a son, a 14-year-old son, and I told him that blockchain is the future, and he should get into that. I'm already educating him, and he's got such an attitude with apps that is much better than mine. So I'll tell you that, and my daughter as well, that is, she's only 11. So young people, Z generation, are the best for these applications. So this is an industry that I would strongly advise to get into, especially for young people. But there are three main points. First of all, look at serious institutions to learn from.
All right.
Like I said, yours. to serious people that teach, and look also the how the environment is changing, because this is much faster in industry than others. You have to always keep track of what's happening. And this is essential, because otherwise even a university professor could be outdated if he teaches the same thing. The online course from last year and this year is the same. It's already over.
Yeah. All right. That's interesting, because Jack Dorsey, the Twitter CEO, calls the Bitcoin white paper one of the most seminal works of computer science in the last 20 to 30 years, and said it was poetry. And I guess to fix the problem that we have now, you would need a white paper of the same ilk, don't you think? Would you agree with him? I mean, what are we looking at in terms of the effort that needs to be expended in order to solve that problem?
You mean which problem are you talking about now?
Well, any of the problem we've been talking about in the last hour.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
they're extremely complex. Yeah.
Yeah, there are too complex. Generally speaking, I always say blockchain is very easy. It's all about smart contracts. If you understand how the smart contracts work in a blockchain, it's over. That's why I understand all kinds of blockchain. I'm not specialized on finance. I can look at any kind of blockchain, because whenever I look at a blockchain, I look at the smart contracts and how they address the problems of the industry they are trying to solve. Problem solve. Yeah, for instance, if I look at a blockchain for the health industry, I look at the problems of the health industry and how they are addressed by their smart contracts of the blockchain that we are talking about. Then in a different industry, the same approach. So if the smart contracts, I'll give you a concrete example.
Okay.
Let's say that somebody goes into the emergency room of a hospital, and if his data or her data are on the blockchain, whenever he gets into emergency room, the hospital has got all the information, all the surgical operations that they got, the blood test, any health issue related to this person, okay? Yep. And then whenever he gets into the emergency room of the hospital, he's treated immediately. They look at his file on the blockchain, and he's treated immediately in an effective way, efficient way. Now, how do you get that? If the blockchain of the health company addresses has got a smart contract for the blood test, smart contract for eyes, smart contract for each part of the body that is being affected by a serious problem, then that is an efficient blockchain. If it's got just for the blood test and for some surgical operations that they had in the past, and that's it, that is not effective. So that is an easy way to explain a blockchain.
All right, that's quite a very good, quite an insightful approach to it. I would definitely say that. Actually, do you? I mean, I know you've talked already about a lot of startups and a lot of concepts, but I mean, would you recommend any of those? I mean, talking about those young and able that are listening to us and are wondering whether they should embrace the career. Do you have any app or any kind of new app or startups or technology that we should watch in the coming month or coming years or whatever?
Well, I generally speaking, I am not the kind of guy that say take this or take that, because I like to look at blockchain solutions in detail. And what I do is a matrix. On one side, I take all the variables of the client. On the other side, I take all the variables of the blockchain. And within the matrix, I see if the two sides match, how much they match, and the way they match. if there is a good match for the two sides, then I would recommend that. But this is specific for each kind of client that you have. So I wouldn't say that this is best, because something that could be good for my company wouldn't be good for your company.
Okay, right. That's really interesting. Doctor, do you have a question, maybe?
No, I think we are running out of time now.
So, all right, okay, excellent. Yeah, I knew we had a timing issue, so that's why I was asking. All right, good. Well, let's wrap it up then. We're getting close to the end of this podcast. So thank you for being a good sport, Massimo Buonomo. If you have any message that you would like to spread, last message, your last moment on this podcast, if you want to drop something, drop an information, a bomb, a time bomb, whatever, a bottle to the sea, and say something to the young people, young and able, listening to this podcast, what do you want to tell them? What do you want to say to them?
Well, to young people, if I were to be 20 years old, I would definitely go into the blockchain now, because now is the right time. Because in the future, it will be too late. Go there now, get into it, but try to understand each side, the business side, the technical side, and do it as soon as possible, because it's already getting too late. In the next 2 to 3 years, you will tend to find some established companies. I always say that blockchain is what the internet was the year 2000. Yeah. Now, in 20 years from now, you'll see only blockchain companies again.
Right. Okay. So most companies will be blockchain companies.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when in the year 2000, I was looking at a company, and I remember I was talking to my friends. I was saying, I found a company that is quite good. It's called Google. And everybody was saying, what is that? And now everybody's saying, even a 3-year-old boy or girl tells you, Dad, what, you're not using Google? You see?
That is true. That is true. And of course, indeed, all businesses actually moved to the internet in the first place, right? You couldn't start a business today without a web page. So I would say that
20 years ago, Google was nothing, That's why I'm saying in 2020, many blockchain startups are like Google in the year 2000.
Yes, you're right. I can see that happen. All right. Well, I think so. We're going to wrap this podcast up as we say. So where can people find you, Sir Massimo? Do you have a place on social media, online, a website, somewhere where people can find you?
I tend to, because I do lots of things. You were lucky that I had a good haul in the afternoon, because I'm always very busy.
Thank you very much.
I tend to put all the infos and the things that I do in LinkedIn. So that's what I concentrate all the things, because I don't like to put in several different places, because it's a lot of effort. So I put everything in LinkedIn. So you can check whatever I'm doing in LinkedIn. Okay.
So LinkedIn under Massimo Buonomo.
Yeah, Massimo Buonomo.
All right. Okay. Fantastic. And what about the United Nations? They don't have a website or something, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, every single United Nations agency has got its own website.
They only have the website.
It's huge.
Okay.
Yeah, there's UNICEF. All right. There's a UNICEF website just dedicated to blockchain.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean,
excellent. That's a good address.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, what about you, Dr. Klima? Where can people find you online, on social media and elsewhere?
Yes, they can find the Master of Blockchain Project Design and Master Spécialisé, and they can find it online, master with an E, .esc.fr. So master, as in French, with an E at the end, .ese.fr.
Fantastic. Okay, and my name is, of course, Hermann Djoumessi, co-host of this amazing collab with the good Dr. Won Kim, and our guest was today Massimo Buonomo. I repeat again, United Nations Chief Specialist. Oh, no, there must be something wrong there, no? United Nations Global Expert. Yeah, go on. I'm listening.
United Nations Global Expert in Blockchain.
Exactly. United Nations Global Expert in Blockchain, Fintech, and Regtech. Okay. You can find me and my multiverses on Twitter at Team ADMP, on Facebook, the Facebook group #ADMP, or on the website www.admpawards.biz, where we do have 17,000 readers a month, or indeed our email address, which is teamadmp@gmail.com. And before we love and leave you, we want to give a few shout out to our lovable community members. So first of all, shout out to Afri Visage, the Wax Elegance, doing its bit for the community. Shout out to the ADMPers, Lotin Corp, Miracle, Aliyah, Jangi Money, and any of you wishing to be shouted out, please get in touch at teamadmp@gmail.com. All right. Message, hashtag shout out BDB. Rest assured, ladies and gentlemen of the new podcasting orders, this was once again the Blockdown Blockchain Podcast, a digital inception and production by ADMP Virtual Incubator. Thank you. Bye-bye, gents. Au revoir. Believe me when I say bye-bye. Thank you very much. And thank you again to Massimo Buonomo, Global Expert on Fintech, Regtech, and Blockchain for the United Nations. Thank you very much again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.